up YouTube? Today's video I'm going to introduce an alternative currency making method for people who are a little bit more who just don't like looting nemesis currency so much, but it is really fun. I did enjoy doing it, and I'll probably switch to it in the coming days just because I don't really care about making the best exalts per hour and I just want to have fun with it. And this currency making method is actually probably harder than 100% deli, and it does punish dying. And this of course is Delirium. Now, before I explain this currency method, I wanted to introduce to you something that I learned from my Twitch chat today about a pretty groundbreaking discovery that allows you to press Withering Step and Berserk with 100% uptime whenever it is off cooldown. Now, a lot of people might be wondering, how is this possible? Is it legal? And it is actually 100% legal. I looked it up and saw some confirmation that people have been doing it before. People have been doing it in the past in other games like Diablo and Lost Ark. And a lot of people use this trick for mine detonation. So I thought that if you could introduce this into the Berserker gameplay, it would narrow the gap between Berserker and Raider a lot. Because a lot of people complain that Berserker is a lot harder to play. And it is a lot harder to play, and it does require you to press a lot of more buttons. But with this trick, you can press Withering Step and Berserk at all times, making you only needing to press pretty much Lightning Strike and your movement skill and your left click General's Cry, which will just be pretty much no upkeep at all. So let's get straight into the method and how you can use NUMLOCK to save RSI and be able to play the Berserker without huge regrets. So what we have here is my wonderful keyboard. It is a Logitech G Pro, but the problem with this keyboard is NUMLOCK does not actually exist on it. So I had to manually rebind some random keys. Now, if you have NUMLOCK enabled on your keyboard, or you have a keyboard with a numpad, then you don't need to use a third-party software to do this. But if you don't have a numpad on your keyboard, I know a lot of people don't because of the switch to minimalism, that you can use your keyboard software or another third-party software to remap the keys. Now, the way this works is, so we want to always be pressing Berserk and Withering Step at all times. Now, usually you can just put Withering Step on left click and you wouldn't need to worry about it. But in order to do this, what we want to do is we want to bind the two buttons for our Berserk and Withering Step to numpad, to any number on our numpad. So in this case, I want to do it to, wait, how is this going to work? Oh, numpad 1. So you have to put numlock and then you use the numpad and then you can do it. And then this one's numpad 2. So what this means is that we can use numlock to lock it in place. And what numlock does is just keeps pressing those keys as if it was held down. So you want to press numlock 1 on the keyboard and numlock 2 and then press numlock again. And it will keep casting it as long as you keep have numlock highlighted. So right now you can see here my hands are up here and it is still casting. I don't know, technically it's not TOS, but it seems kind of weird, right? Hands are up here and it is just casting it, and it will keep doing it as long as you want it to do it. So as soon as Withering Step is off cooldown, it will cast it again, allowing you to have near perfect uptime on Withering Step and your Berserk timing. So as soon as Berserk is ready to go, it is pressed again immediately. So what this means, and this is probably one of the biggest changes I have ever known in PoE. Like, if I had to say up for like the most game-breaking things that I could have known, this is probably one of the things that could have saved me in hardcore when I played the Gauntlet. What this means is you can use Smoke Mine and Detonate Mines on left click and still be able to auto cast Molten Shell the whole time and have pretty much the Molten Shell on left click. What this means is that you can pretty much be able to have General's Cry on left click, Molten Shell on left click, Withering Step on left click, and Berserk on left click. And it is just absolutely crazy that I didn't know that this existed before. Now, this was used before to do mines detonation. And for this purpose, it is huge for the Berserker. One of the biggest problems about Berserker is the number of buttons you have to press, since pressing Withering Step is so OP. And trying to maintain Berserk uptime is huge, so you want to have Berserk up almost all times. And this just makes the game a lot more smooth to play. Now, there is one downside. If you die and you go to a loading screen, it will turn off and you have to turn it off again. So let's just say I go back to town.
What now?
Go to town. And then I want to go back to my hideout and I want to start off the have Berserk and Withering Step up at all times. Let's hope the game doesn't crash. Game has been really stable this patch. Not really, but please don't crash while I'm making a video. Okay, it didn't crash. Just a little long load time, nothing too special. So now you can see once we load back into the hideout a year later, well, maybe the game crashed. The game does not like the NUMLOCK method. Who knows, right? There's no way I'm recording a video and it crashed. But while we're waiting for the game to load, we can see my excellence tab. I'm up to 292 exalts. So we're kind of making our way to the Mage Blood. I know yesterday I looked at the price of Mage Bloods. It was actually at 260 exalts, but this game actually crashed. So let me restart the game so I can show you what I actually mean by you have to start it up. So every time you go to a loading screen, the NUMLOCK needs to be done again. And this is probably the first crash I've actually had all league. This league has been one of the most stable launches. Shortest load times ever, right? But let's see if we can get back to the hideout so we can see if this thing still works. Now, the big problem with a keyboard without the numpad is you can't really see when the numlock key is on, so you don't really know if it's on or not. So let's see. Let's press the numpads. So since it doesn't work, we know the numlock key is not on. And now we do it. So we press the 3 buttons. You want to press numpad 1, numpad 2, and then numlock. And then now it's ready to go. So you pretty much have to do that at the start of every map. So just 3 little button presses will save you a full map's worth of spamming Withering Step and Berserk. Now, if you're trying to do boss fights, however, I don't fully recommend this, as it's kind of inefficient, because sometimes you could be pressing Berserk when you have like 20 or 10 rage. Withering Step is something you always want to do, so maybe for boss fights, you can put numlock on Withering Step and not do it on Berserk, and you can manually cast Berserk. So there's a lot of different ways of doing it. Another thing, so there's a lot of ways of doing it, right? So it's just up to you and how much you want to automate it versus how optimally you want to play. But this change should help out a lot of people. I know a lot of people do complain about how annoying the Berserker is. It has too many buttons to press. Well, let your numlock and your keyboard do it for you. Perfectly legal method. Now, I have been trying out a lot of Nemesis 4 currency. So this is the Nemesis 4 method, just for anyone wondering. Nemesis 4, 3 additional Breach, 3 additional Abyss, and Beyond Watchstones. Now, that's pretty much something for another video. I do think Nemesis 4 is the best currency in the game. Average is probably around 10 plus exalts per hour or more by doing Tropical Island. And you also get the Scout card. But what we're talking about here today is Valdo's Rest. And wow, I just can't even see the, what's it called, my tree without doing a Valdo's Rest map. So basically what we have here is a Mirror of Delirium, cold damage, lightning damage, and instant recovery of flasks. So the main important thing here is we want to buy a Valdo's Rest or any watchstone. A unique watchstone can work with the Mirror of Delirium roll on it. Now the Mirror of Delirium roll probably costs you around 100 chaos. So the way you can do it is you can go to the filter and look for area contains a Mirror of Delirium. And then you can pretty much sort it by number of uses. So you can see 4 uses, and you can see around, it costs probably around 100 chaos. Now right now, this thing, Better Trading PoE, kind of has it weirdly listed in that it kind of misrepresents the value of exalts. But you can see down here that there is some usually for 100 chaos. Now I know right now it's 120 chaos, but during the day, it was around 100 chaos or so. So basically you buy one of these watchstones with 4 uses of the Delirium Mirror, and then you end up using 3 of these watchstones that are split platinum Valdo's Rest watchstones. So what this does is it gives you 8% increased stack size of Simulacrum Splinters, allowing you to get more Simulacrum Splinters. Now this gets scaled by the 25% increased effect of watchstone modifier. So technically if you roll the Mirror of Delirium yourself, and you have 4 of these, then you'll roughly have around 50% increased stack size of watchstones. Oh wait, this is a 40% increased stack size of watchstones, because you have 32 plus 25, which would be 8%. So you would have around 40% increased stack size. So this actually ends up being pretty big. And what this means is this will allow you to do last league, the Delirium Mirror farming. So this is Delirium Mirror farming and Valdo's Rest. Investment, you want to buy the Watchstone Road with Delirium Mirror and 4 uses. It costs around 100 C or maybe 120 chaos depending on the time of day. and each map will therefore cost around 25C if you divide this by the number of uses. Now the scarabs we want to use to benefit the most from it is Rusted Elder, Rusted Legion, Polished Breach, and Rusted Blight. Now with these scarabs I was able to get 300 splinters. Now if you don't get a really good layout, now what determines how many splinters you get is where the league mechanics are. So if you get a lot of breach at the end of the map and the blight at the end of the map, you're pretty much going to be almost guaranteed 300 splinters pretty easily. And if you get a delirium boss in it, it's pretty good, and that will drop you a good amount of splinters, I think up to 30. So getting the boss and getting the league mechanics at the end are huge in terms of getting the splinters. So if sometimes you get 200 splinters or 180, it's because your league mechanics were at the start or your Alva temple was at the start. Now the map device, you want to use Breach, and the Atlas mission you want to put on is Alva. So the annoying part about this is since you end up doing more maps per hour, you will burn through a lot more Alva missions compared to Nemesis farming. Now the reason we use Breach is that it only costs 2 chaos, and it is very, very efficient in terms of being able to help you out in the Delirium, the fog. The way you use Breach is you go inside of the Breach and then you turn on the Scourge and you clear everything around it. And while you're standing inside of the Breach, the fog will be paused, and that's the way I use the the Scourge mechanic with Breach. So that's why we use Breach. So that's why we also use the Polished Breach. So in the map, you have 4 pretty much breaches that you can stand in and that you can use Scourge and activate. You can also activate the Scourge with Blight, and it will kind of pause it, I think. And Legion will also pause it to some degree. So that's when I will actually press the Scourge, and I will include a full run of doing the 300 splinters or a portion of the run. So what this means is that adding this all up with the map device with 2C on the Breach, 13C for the Scarabs, and 25C for the Watchstone with the Delirium Mirror, it comes out to around 40 chaos per map. Now the outputs that you end up dropping is 200 plus splinters. This is pretty consistent unless you die and the map ends. But I think you could pretty easily get 200 plus splinters every single time. You can also bump it up, use a Gilded Breach Scarab, and you'll probably guarantee yourself over 200, and it's probably worth it. Now the random loot will include some Delirium Orbs and Cluster Jewels, and some of these Cluster Jewels can sell for quite a bit. Like the Fizz 8-point Cluster Jewels, the Chaos Damage Cluster Jewels, the Cold Damage Large Cluster Jewels. So adding it all up with the Blight maps that you might get, the Breach Splinters or the Legion Splinters you will get, you will probably end up making around 1 to 1.5x per map, depending on how lucky you are with the Splinters and other drops. The Delirium Orbs are worth a lot right now. I think the baseline of them is 25 Chaos in bulk. And some of the Delirium Orbs that you might get could be up to like 50 or 40 Chaos, with Skittering going up to 100C. So this output roughly will profit you around 1 Exalt per map after taking into account everything. And the time it takes to complete the map is 8 to 10 minutes, the minimal looting time. So you can pretty much expect to do like 6 of 7 of these maps per hour. Now that's with like full on efficiency. So the profit per hour with Delirium Mirror farming is around 6 to 7 Exalts. Probably very high estimate in my opinion. Now what this means is that this method is just going to be straight up worse than Nemesis 3 or Nemesis 4 farming. And the main reason you want to do this is the fact that it's more fun to do. It's less looting. You'll spend more time playing the game. And it's not really like terrible currency per hour. And when you go to sell everything, it's pretty much just a Delirium tab. And it's really easy to sell Delirium Orbs. It's really easy to sell Simulacrums in bulk. So it's a method that's kind of appeals to people who just want to play the game, don't really care about the best profit per hour, and they want to have decent money per hour still. So now let's go look at the Valdo's Rest Atlas passives 3.16. And the reason we have to do this is because we actually just can't see it. So I know this is not a good site. But basically what we want to take is Persecutory Delusion. So you take all of the Delirium stuff. So you have Delirium encounters and are more likely to spawn 100% unique bosses. Let's see if there's actually an image of this. Their list of... Yeah, this one here. No, wait, let's use this instead of that. Wait, that's just the same site? What the heck? Okay, so let's zoom in on this. So what we have here, Valdo's Rest. Oh, wait, this is something from like way back in the tree. How is this from 3.16? A new Atlas passive trees. There we go. It seems like some PoE currency RMT sites are always where you go to find good information, as weirdly as that may sound. I wonder why they have good stuff, right? So what we want for the Atlas passive regions is Persecutory Delusion, Greater Forces, and Singular Eternity. So you take these nodes over here. Now what this means is that the Delirium will increase faster distance from the mirror, and this is really good because the further in the fog you kill the monsters, the more chance they have to drop splinters. And then this thing makes it so that you're more likely to get Delirium bosses, and we're pretty much taking this so that we can path to Greater Forces. And Singular Eternity means that this will help us stay in the fog for longer and will make the fog last longer so that we can get to the end of the map and not worry about the fog overtaking us. Now, what's left is you might think we want to do some Harbinger, but the real answer is we want to take the Blight nodes. That gives the maps found in areas have a chance to contain Blight encounter. Now, that's not really important. The main reason we go towards Blight is this thing, immune response. So in immune response, the Blight encounters in areas spawn 100% more non-unique monsters. And anyone who does a lot of Delirium mirror farming knows that non-unique Blight is one of the biggest source of gaining more rewards and getting more reward layers, right? And not only that, it also makes the Blight monsters in areas spawn 150% faster, meaning that you'll end up doing more of these maps. So I put in here what Atlas passive choices you should take. But basically, I really enjoy this region. The main problem is that this is pretty hard to do. At like 7 or 8 reward layers, if you're at the very end really fast, it is probably harder than 100% Delirium. And this method is also a way that is pretty performance based, which is a good thing and a bad thing. Some people don't want to have the possibility of failing the map. Now, you could also do this in Glenok. And what you would do is this would be more of a Abyss strat. So you would take the Beyond nodes here and you would take the Abyss nodes here. So it's kind of different. So you have Beyond and Abyss. Well, this one is the Greater Forces, making it harder and more consistent, and having Blight. So I think Valdo's will be the better in terms of consistency because Greater Forces is just so broken, and Singular Eternity, this is what we had last league that we did it on. But it does make it a lot harder. So now I'm going to showcase a little video of the 300 splinters so you can see how it's done.
So why is it so hard to let you go? To let you go. So why is it so hard to let you go? To let you go. So why is it so hard to let you go? Let you go.
Overall, I do hope everyone enjoyed this video. In terms of learning about the NUMLOCK trick, I do think the NUMLOCK trick is a complete game changer. And I'm actually very sad that I didn't know about it because it could have definitely helped me out. Main thing is to note that if you're actually trying to like speed farm maps, it could be a little annoying having to do the numlock thing at the start. But it's probably not that bad if you use what's it called? If you use a keyboard with an actual numpad. And make sure to try out Delirium farming. It's pretty fun. Not the most profit. I'll probably be trying it out a little more, seeing if I can optimize it anyway. But if you're getting like 250 plus splinters or 200 plus splinters consistently, it's really, really fun to do. However, main thing is Alpha missions is kind of a bitch to farm, but it's okay. But thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you find more mirrors and exalts and mage bloods than me, and see you next time. Bye.